I'm supposed to be this person who knows about fitness and health, and yet I only recently heard of the Flexitarian Diet. And apparently this book came out in 2009. But that's okay, because if I just found out about it, maybe you haven't heard about it either, but I'm going to talk about a few reasons why you should try the Flexitarian Diet, because I've been checking it out. So let's just jump right in. Flexitarian, okay, you get it. It's like flexible plus vegetarian, flexitarian. You always wonder the people who come up with these things. But that is simply it. You're not a strict vegetarian, and you're not this high meat consumption person. You're somewhere in the middle where you're taking this active lifestyle plan and view that you're going to eat more fruits and vegetables, legumes, proteins from non-animal sources. So that's the goal. The Flexitarian Diet was actually, I guess, started in 2009 by a registered dietitian named Dawn Jackson Blatner. And in her book, she talked about the Flexitarian Diet, the things that you want to focus on, like I already said before, and the things you don't want to focus on. But she also includes recipes in there too. So most of her recipes have like around 5 ingredients in them. You guys, you know how this is. Sometimes we get overcome. We get these diet books or plans. You wonder if they actually think about just the regular person. Like, who has time? We're not chefs, right? We don't have these full extravagant kitchens, and we don't have 50 ingredients, 50 spices and things sitting around waiting for us to put together these concoctions. We want simple, which leads me to number one reason why. I didn't know it, but I was already sort of following the Flexitarian diet to some extent. I don't really eat a lot of meat. I focus more on trying to add more vegetables to my diet, and it really is a struggle sometimes. But I've just gotten to the point where I've started even eating more eggs in the morning for breakfast, because typically I was having something like yogurt and granola, and granted there's still like the milk and stuff's coming from an animal, but it's not the same thing as saying, hey, I cut up this cow and ate it last night for dinner. It's a little different. But with the Flexitarian Diet, I think, part of it is it's just something that's more real. It's more in line with our day-to-day living, and we don't have to go out and all of a sudden buy all this crazy stuff that we don't know what it is and what's in it and where can we find it. And a lot of times, you're in these programs where you have to buy these certain things, and it costs money. Like, it's not something you can easily fit into your budget. Well, what you're saying here is, I'm not going to be a strict vegetarian, and I'm not going to be this like high consuming, animal protein person, but I'm going to be somewhere in the middle. I'm going to be like this semi-vegetarian. You don't get that sort of guilt and the guilt follow-up eating that comes along with trying to follow some sort of strict diet. The more we can have this sort of attitude about fitting things in and incorporating it into our lifestyle, that we're less likely to like fall off the wagon and not exercise for 6 months because we had this mess up. Number one reason is this whole sort of idea that it really is flexible, and that you're not going to be held to some sort of stringent expectation that you're not going to meet anyway. Let me talk about the second thing, losing weight, because that's another thing that people think about. Studies have shown that in general, people who are strictly vegetarian tend to have a lower body mass index over people who are not strict vegetarians. Somewhere in the middle might be a little bit healthier for you. So if you could just come part of the way, you have the ability to maybe impact your waist and your body mass index so that you take that down a little bit. So that's the second one. Let me talk about number 3. It has to do with foods and recipes. And I already talked a little bit about this when I was first starting this video. Typically what will hold us back too is this idea that we have to go out and buy certain foods all the time, and we have to have this certain recipe list. And yes, there are recipes and lists in this book. However, the thing about it is, even with the recipes, like I said before, it's usually only like 5 ingredients that you're putting together. So it's a lot simpler than, you know, this sort of long list of stuff that you got to put together, and then all this cooking and stuff you have to do. A lot of times we're like pressed for time. So we need foods and recipes that are going to work, and not things that are just going to be like things we can't even pronounce and we don't know what they are. So the thing about this is, because you're not completely overhauling your whole diet from day one, you can start to make small changes, like add in 1 or 2 recipes a week and take your time with it. This is not something, like I said before, that is so stringent that every single meal is supposed to be like no animal products. And so you're able to work with foods that you already have in your pantry and in your cabinet and in your refrigerator, so that you're not thinking, oh crap, now I gotta go out and buy all this stuff. Guess what? You don't. Number 4, let's talk about some of the just overall health benefits. Okay, now, disclaimer number 1, I'm not a doctor. Disclaimer number 2, I'm not like a registered dietitian or a nutritionist, okay? But however, I can read studies just like you can. And the moment you move to a diet that is more plant-based and less animal-based, you start to see some improvements in your health. And this is borne out by studies. Okay, let's start with the Harvard Medical School, and this is directly from their website, where they talk about some of the benefits. As we all know, heart disease is one of those major health risks, along with cancer and diabetes. And right here, they've got all the information you need to know about how being a vegetarian can help with those diseases. These studies tend to show that with animal products, we're eating more calories, right? They are higher in fat. And then when we cook them, we do things like frying and putting in a whole lot of grease and adding sauces and that sort of stuff. When we're eating plants, we're less likely to do that, unless you're from the South, and maybe we add gravies and stuff. But you know what I'm talking about. In terms of health benefits, what you're usually seeing is a lower risk of cardiovascular disease, right? So you're less likely to have heart disease, cancer, diabetes. All of these things will impact your overall health. And studies have shown that when you have a diet that leans more toward being vegetarian, even if it's not strict vegetarianism, it will likely bring you health benefits that you would not see if you were eating a diet high in animal products. You guys already know this. And so when you're moving from, you know, eating the cow to eating less cow and more plants, then you are probably, according to some studies, going to see more benefits in your overall health. And then number 5, okay, this is the last one. For those of you who are concerned about the environment, okay, it does take more, you know, impact on our environment to raise cattle and to raise animals and to feed them. And so when we decrease our meat consumption, we impact greenhouse gas emissions. I actually have an environmental background and did some work in environmental policy. And so I totally get the idea that we can make some impacts and transform our climate and our environment, our air quality and our water quality, if we take into account how we are producing things, and that includes how we are producing our foods, which includes those cattle that we're eating every day. So those are the 5 reasons why you might want to consider a flexitarian diet. You may figure out that you are already somewhat of a flexitarian. And if so, that may be a good thing for you. And maybe you can look at how you're going to further develop that in 2021. Well, my name is Sheila and I am out of here. Let me know in the comments what you think about a flexitarian diet. Have you ever tried a flexitarian diet specifically? Do you think now that you've actually been doing a flexitarian diet the whole time and didn't know it? That may be the case. I totally forgot to record an outro, you guys. So don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can see more. Peace and love.